The twin suns of Virilan 3 burned faintly in the dusty orange sky, their light weak and tired as if they had seen too much death. Beneath them lay a once beautiful world, a planet of crystal rivers, silver plains, and tall sky trees that shimmered in the wind. But that beauty was gone now. The cities were smoke. The people were broken. For 3 long weeks, the alien Synchra Empire had turned this peaceful colony into a graveyard. The Synchra were a race of insectoid conquerors, tall, armored, cruel. They saw kindness as weakness and believed mercy was a disease. Wherever their fleet went, silence followed in the ruins of Celeron City. A young alien woman named Lyra Veton crawled through the dust with a cracked communicator in her hands. Her pale lavender skin was streaked with soot, and one of her silver horns had snapped during the last bombing. Around her, the air smelled of ash and melted stone. She could hear the faint sobs of children hiding beneath broken walls. She pressed a button on the old device, and the weak red light flickered. Static filled the air. "Come on," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Please work." Just once more, she tapped the metal case again, and the signal bar blinked. The ancient tower behind her coughed to life, its broken antenna pointing toward the stars. She took a deep breath and began recording. This is Lyra Veton of Virilan 3. To anyone out there, to anyone who can hear this, her voice cracked. We surrender. We plead for mercy. Please save us. Tower's power cells flickered, and then a weak pulse of light shot into the heavens. Carrying her plea across the endless dark, Lyra dropped the communicator and sank to her knees. She didn't cry. She couldn't anymore. There were no tears left, only exhaustion. The wind carried the sound of Synchra patrol ships circling the city. Behind her, a small child peeked from a hole in the wall. "Lyra, will they come?" he asked quietly. She forced a smile, though her heart was breaking. "Yes, Taro, someone will come." But inside, she didn't believe it. The galaxy had already abandoned them once. The Galactic Council had signed peace with the Synchra long ago, pretending not to see the burned worlds left behind. The peaceful races of the stars had learned one thing: never call for help when monsters ruled the skies. Yet, somewhere far away, her message traveled. It crossed nebulae, storm clouds of radiation, and dead systems. It passed through forgotten relay stations until, by chance or fate, it reached a quiet blue world, Earth. On a calm morning at the Terran Defense Network headquarters, alarms suddenly blared. Technicians leaped from their stations as red text filled the screens. "Incoming distress signal, unknown origin. Lieutenant Mira." Donovan frowned as she adjusted her headset. "It's an old communication band. Pre-galactic standard. It's emotional broadcast data." Admiral Marcus Hale, commander of the Terran fleet, stepped into the room. He was an old soldier, gray-haired, scar-faced, eyes like steel, but his voice was steady. "Play it." The room fell silent as Lyra's message echoed through the speakers. "This is Lyra Veton of Virilan 3. To anyone out there, we surrender. We plead for mercy. Please save us." Dick followed. No coordinates, no context, just a trembling voice in the void. For a moment, no one spoke. Humanity hadn't been called for help in decades. The last time they'd interfered, they had been branded as DEATHWORLDers, monsters too dangerous to be trusted. The galaxy had pushed them away, and they had quietly returned to their home system. Admiral Hale looked out the viewport, where Earth hung in silence, glowing beneath its defense grid. "She's asking for mercy," he said softly, "and the ones attacking her won't give it." "Sir," said Donovan, "do you want us to log it and forward it to the Council?" Hale turned to her slowly. "The Council didn't save us when we asked for mercy centuries ago." He straightened. "Patch it to the fleet. Prepare Task Force Epsilon. We're going to Virilan 3. Within hours, the calm orbit of Earth turned into a storm of motion. The great Terran carriers ignited their fusion drives, their hulls marked with the insignia of the old world, the Iron Eagle. From every shipyard and lunar base, warships awakened like beasts from hibernation. The TSS Resolute, Hale's flagship, led the charge. On its bridge, soldiers prepared in silence. They didn't cheer. They didn't speak of glory. They only packed, loaded, and moved with purpose. Commander Reese Lorne, a veteran Marine with a scar across his jaw, watched the fleet leave orbit. "We're answering a distress call again, sir." "Feels like old times." Hale nodded. "Old times ended with half our fleet burned." Reese smiled faintly. "Then maybe this time we remind the galaxy why they used to fear us." Dodd. Hale didn't respond, but his eyes said enough. Days later, as Lyra huddled with the survivors beneath the ruins of Celeran, thunder rolled from the skies. She froze, thinking another synchro bombardment was coming. But when she looked up through a hole in the ceiling, she saw streaks of blue fire, thousands of them cutting across the clouds. "Is it them again?" the child Tara whispered. Lyra didn't answer. The ground trembled, and she saw shapes falling through the atmosphere as leak metal crafts. Faster and smaller than synchro vessels. They descended like meteors. Then came the sound. A deep, roaring hum that shook the air. Her breath caught in her throat as one of the strange ships landed near the edge of the city. It slammed into the dirt, kicking up a storm of dust. The side hatch opened, releasing figures in dark, heavy armor. Their suits gleamed black with faint silver lights across their visors. They looked nothing like the peaceful alien species she'd seen before. They were large, upright, broad-shouldered, each movement careful and precise. Humans, the survivors stared in silence. One of them stepped forward, his armor marked with faded battle paint. His voice came through a translator, deep and calm. "We received your signal. Stay where you are. We'll secure the area." Lyra blinked. You came." The human looked around the burned buildings. "You asked for mercy," he said simply. "We don't ignore that." Far above, in orbit, the Synchro fleet scrambled. Their commander, Vrexel the Maw, hissed as he stared at the holographic display. "Humans," he snarled. "The cursed species of the DEATHWORLD." His second-in-command buzzed nervously. "They are entering lower orbit, Commander. They've brought carriers, destroyers, and groundwalkers. This is no rescue they come to fight." Vrexel slammed his claw into the console. "Then we remind them who rules the stars." But even as he spoke, the first Terran missile struck one of his ships, tearing it apart with silent brilliance. The humans didn't wait for threats or speeches, they just acted. Within minutes, the upper atmosphere became a battlefield. Human fighters darted through alien ships like wolves through a herd. Every movement was deliberate, every shot precise. The Synchra had faced dozens of alien armies before, but never humanity. On the surface, Lyra watched from the safety of an old bunker as the humans spread through the city. They didn't move like conquerors. They moved like guardians checking ruins for survivors. Lifting debris, distributing rations from glowing supply pods, she followed one of them, a tall man whose helmet had a white stripe down the center. He paused to help a wounded Varelian elder trapped beneath rubble. With strength that defied logic, he lifted the heavy stone and carried the elder to safety. Lyra approached slowly. "Who are you?" she asked. The man looked down at her, his visor reflecting the flicker of nearby fires. "Sergeant Cole Anders," he said. "Terran Marine Corps." "Owen," she repeated softly. "You're from Earth." He nodded once. "Yes, ma'am." She swallowed hard. "Why? Why did you come?" "The galaxy calls you monsters." Cole looked at the destroyed buildings, the broken people, and the child clinging to her side. "Monsters?" He knelt down, placing a ration pack into Taro's hands. "Maybe. But sometimes monsters are the only ones who show up when it matters." Lyra stared at him. Unable to speak above them, thunder shook the heavens again this time, from the Terran artillery platforms entering the atmosphere. The Synchro resistance was crumbling. "Get everyone underground," Cole ordered. "It's going to get loud." She nodded and led the survivors back into the tunnels. But before going down, she looked once more at the human soldiers moving through fire and ash, their armor glowing faintly beneath the storm. For the first time in weeks, she felt hope. Back on the Resolute, Admiral Hale watched the chaos unfold through the tactical display. Enemy fleet strength reduced by 40%, reported Commander Reese. Good, Hale said. Keep them busy. I want every civilian alive by dawn. Reese smirked. Sir, the galaxy's going to call us monsters again after this? Hale's expression didn't change. Let them. They begged for mercy. We're just answering. Outside the viewport, dozens of Terran warships cut through the clouds of Viralan 3. Their engines glowed like burning suns. Their formation perfect and ruthless to the terrified invaders. It looked like a nightmare made of steel and fire. And somewhere below, hidden in the smoke, a young alien woman whispered a prayer of gratitude to the same stars that had once abandoned her. That night, the survivors of Celeron huddled together in the tunnels. The sound of distant thunder rolled across the land. It was not rain. It was not nature. It was the roar of human artillery and the burning fury of machines built for survival. Lyra sat near the firelight, holding Taro close. They came for us, she whispered. The monsters came, and they saved us. Outside, Sergeant Cole's voice echoed through his radio. All sectors secure. We've got them. The civilians are safe. From orbit, the smoke of battle still hung over Viralan 3 when dawn came. The rising sun struggled to break through the ash clouds, painting the horizon a deep red. The ground was black with the remains of war-burned metal, shattered armor, and the silent hulks of synchro war machines. But for the first time in weeks, the people of Viralan 3 heard no screams, no explosions. Only the distant hum of Terran machinery repairing what could be saved. In the heart of the ruined city of Celeron, Lyra Veton climbed out of the underground tunnels with the surviving Virelians. Her eyes widened when she saw what the Terrans had done in just one night. The once burning streets were now lined with armored transports distributing food and water. Portable medical stations buzzed softly, and human medics moved quickly between wounded aliens. Applying gel patches and administering care with practiced precision, they worked in silence, without demand for reward or recognition. Their armor was still scarred and blackened from battle, yet their movements were careful and gentle. To the Virelians, they still looked like monsters tall, armored beings from a death world, but their actions told a different story. Lyra watched as Sergeant Cole Anders knelt beside a small alien child with a broken leg. He took a portable tool, pressed a button, and a warm blue light sealed the wound. The child blinked, surprised by the lack of pain. Cole smiled faintly behind his visor. Good as new, he said softly. No more running from bad guys, okay? The child nodded and laughed for the first time in days. Lyra felt something strange inside her chest. Hope, mixed with disbelief. She approached Cole as he stood, brushing dust from his gauntlet. You didn't just fight them, she said. You're helping us rebuild. Cole looked around at his team. That's what we do, he replied simply. We finish the fight, then we pick up the pieces. Far above them, the war was not yet over. The Synchro fleet was retreating toward the outer orbit, but they were not fleeing quietly. Commander Vrexel the Maw, furious and wounded, had gathered what remained of his warships for one last strike. Inside his flagship, he slammed his claws onto the console. They dare defy us, he roared. Humans, filthy creatures from a cursed world. I will burn their fleet to ash. His second-in-command man hesitated. Commander, our forces are at half strength. Their weapons, Vrexel hissed sharply, silencing him. Prepare the swarm missiles. If we die, they die with us. Thousands of metallic pods detached from the Synchro ships, glowing with toxic green light. They arched through space toward the planet below. Toward the cities where both humans and Virelians stood, on board the Terran flagship Resolute. Admiral Marcus Hale stood on the bridge, eyes locked on the tactical map. When the alarms began to scream, he didn't flinch. Multiple launch signatures, shouted Lieutenant Donovan. Hundreds no, thousands of warheads inbound. Planetary strike. Reese Lorne clenched his fists. They're going to nuke the surface, sir. Hale's voice was cold, but steady. Not while I'm still breathing. He turned to the helm. Deploy all interceptors. Activate the Aegis grid. And tell our ground teams to dig in. Down below, Cole's communicator buzzed sharply in his ear. All ground teams, brace for impact. Enemy barrage incoming. Cole looked up and saw the sky turning green, the reflection of plasma trails descending from orbit. The survivors around him screamed and ducked for cover. He grabbed Lyra's arm. Underground. Now. The Varelians hurried into the tunnels again, clutching one another. The ground rumbled like thunder as the sky above them filled with streaking fire. Lyra's heart pounded. They're going to destroy everything. Cole's voice was firm. No, they're going to try. Above the atmosphere, hundreds of Terran defense satellites flickered to life. The Aegis Defense Network, a wall of automated interceptors, opened fire. The sky lit up with streaks of blue light as missiles exploded midair. For every warhead destroyed, 2 more slipped through, impact in 10 seconds. Donovan shouted on the bridge. Hale gripped the railing. All planetary cannons fire. From the surface, massive towers hidden beneath the ground opened, releasing pillars of energy into the sky. One by one, the falling warheads shattered, but some broke through the defense grid. One missile screamed down toward. Slowed Cole saw at first a bright green flash tearing through the clouds. He pushed Lyra and the child Taro behind a wall. "Down!" he yelled. The explosion was deafening. A wall of flame ripped across the horizon, flattening everything in its path. The shockwave threw Cole backward, slamming him into the ground. When the light faded, silence followed. Dust rained from the tunnel ceiling. Lyra coughed, blinking through the smoke. "Cole!" she called. A few seconds later, she heard a groan. Cole stumbled into view, his armor scorched and cracked, but still functional. "Still here," he muttered. "Told you try, not succeed." Despite the fear, Lyra laughed weakly through tears. "You humans are insane," Cole smiled under his visor. "We call it determination." In orbit, the Resolute shook violently as another wave of missiles hit its shields. "Damage to portside decks," shouted Donovan. "Hold formation," Hal ordered. "Redirect power to forward batteries. Target their flagship, bring me Vrexel." The Terran fleet moved like a living thing. Carriers and destroyers shifted into formation. Unleashing coordinated fire on the Synchra flagship, the battle turned the darkness of space into a storm of light. Finally, a railgun shell from the Resolute pierced the enemy flagship clean through, exploding from within. Vrexel's ship cracked in half, spilling fire and debris into the void. As his vessel broke apart, Vrexel snarled into his communicator. "You think this is mercy? You are no saviors. You are monsters." Hale's voice came back, steady and cold. "Then remember what happens when monsters answer the call for mercy." The transmission ended as Vrexel's ship vanished in a burst of white fire. The rest of the Synchra fleet scattered and fled into hyperspace. Humanity didn't chase. The message had already been delivered. 2 days later, Virilanthry was quiet. The fires were out. The dead were buried. The surviving cities were slowly rising again. The Terrans had begun rebuilding communication towers and power grids, working side by side with the Varelians. They had no flag planted in the soil, no demands, no speeches, only help. Admiral Hale walked through the ruined capital, his boots crunching against broken glass. Lyra approached him cautiously, still unable to believe he was the man who commanded the monsters of legend. "Admiral Hale," she asked softly, "why did you come?" "You could have ignored my message. The galaxy would have done nothing." Hale paused, watching Terran engineers repairing a damaged reactor. "We came," he said slowly, "because once no one came for us." He turned to face her. "When Earth was burning, when humanity screamed for help, the galaxy called us savages. We learned mercy from pain. So when you called, we remembered what it felt like to be alone." Lyra's eyes filled with tears. "Then, you are not monsters." Hale's expression didn't change. "No, were worse than monsters to those who hurt the innocent. He turned away, leaving her with that truth. Later that night, the survivors gathered in the center of Celeron. The Terrans had set up lights and power generators, and for the first time in months, the city glowed again. Children laughed. Families reunited. Songs began to rise softly through the crowd. Cole stood by the edge of the square, helmet off, watching quietly. His face was scarred but calm, his eyes tired yet peaceful. Lyra approached, holding 2 cups of water. "You don't rest, do you?" He smiled faintly. "Not much. Comes with the uniform." She handed him 1 cup. "Then drink. You've earned it." He took it and nodded. "Thanks." They stood together in silence for a while, watching the crowd. "You changed everything," Lyra said softly. "The Synchra ruled through fear. But when they see what you did here," Cole looked at her, "they'll stay away." "No," she said with a small smile. "They'll think twice before calling humans monsters again." He chuckled quietly. "They should still be careful. Monsters bite back." Lyra laughed, the sound soft and warm against the cool night. A week later, the Resolute prepared to leave orbit. The repairs were complete, the survivors stable. Humanity would leave the world stronger than they found it. In the command room, Hale stood before his officers. "We've done our part," he said. "Time to head home." Reese crossed his arms. "You think the Council's going to like what we did here?" Hale smirked. "They'll complain. They always do. But they'll also remember who answered the call when no one else did." As the fleet rose toward the stars, the people of Virulon 3 gathered outside to watch. Thousands of small lights streaked upward, each one a Terran ship returning home. Lyra stood at the front of the crowd, watching the ships vanish into the night sky. She felt tears form, but this time they were not from sorrow. Taro tugged her sleeve. "Will they come back?" he asked. She smiled softly. "Maybe not soon. But if anyone ever hurts us again, they'll come." Far beyond, in the silent corridors of the Galactic Council, the news of Virulon 3 spread fast. Ambassadors whispered of the return of the Terrans, the monsters who had vanished for decades. "They crossed half the galaxy for strangers," one alien said in disbelief. "They destroyed an entire Synchra fleet," said another. "And they asked for nothing in return," murmured a third. Silence followed. Then a nervous voice whispered the words every species remembered from ancient wars: "If you make the humans angry, the monsters will come."